Here he is.
Hey up.
Hey up.
Can you hear me?
It's Hywel. How?
Yeah,
Are you in your pub, yeah?
I'm in my garage because I needed some space to. I was going to sit down with a bookcase behind me, but I was worried about what people would think of my books.
Oh right.
So I've just come to the garage and got my headphones on. My hair's got a bit long. I look like Christopher Walken in Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, but with a head, yeah.
Yeah, but with a head.
How are you, my friend? You good?
I'm all right, thank you. Yes, it's just so brilliant what you've arranged today and what you've put together, and it's just ace to be just a little part of it. So yeah, I'm just really excited.
I'm gonna go. You carry on, my friend.
All right, mate. Thanks very much, Graham. Hello, everyone. My name's Hywel Roberts, and it's ace to be part of this. I don't know if I'm the first one to have massive headphones on today, and I'm sorry about that. And I'm speaking to you directly from my garage, where I've actually got a bar set up, and I thought I was trying to get into the spirit of all being a BrewEd and that. The title of my talk is Building Botheredness and Breaking the Bad, and that was the title. I thought it had a nice ring to it, and then I thought, well, what am I going to talk about? So what I'm going to do, if it's all right with everyone, is I'm just going to do, if you like, a daydream, a reverie, a tiptoe through the tulips, through some of the themes actually that I've heard other people speak far more eloquently than me about earlier on today, but maybe I'll just pick up on some of the things that they've said. The thing about, I mentioned that word botheredness, and I'll come back to it later, but what I wanted to start with really was this idea of how do we get kids hooked in, and how do we get kids interested in what we're teaching. For a long time I was an English teacher, teaching poetry and literature and stuff, and I remember being quite taken with the whole Dead Poets Society thing. And I remember standing on a chair in my year 10 classroom, proper giving it about Seamus Heaney's agricultural poetry about his father. Beautiful stuff. Proper nailing it, I thought, as a teacher. And I'm on there. And then this kid at the front called Callum, he's looking up and he said it, and he said it apologetically, which made it a bit worse. He said, "Sir, get off the chair. Just tell us what we need to know." So I got off the chair and I spoon-fed him. I did what teachers probably should be doing, which is just giving the knowledge and the information that the children need. But it didn't sit right with me, because as an English teacher, I'm passionate about English. And if I was a science teacher, I'd expect to be passionate about science. If I'm a PE teacher, the same. If I'm teaching early years, I'm passionate about these little children. Just listening to the last talk, the passion there about those early years and so on. We've got to have that. Now, I'm not sure we can teach passion. I don't know if you can go to night school and get on a course for it or anything like that. I think it's something that we've got to bring with us. The opposite, if you like, is a pedagogy of poverty, a pedagogy of poverty, where, and this is the cruel thing about being a teacher. A pedagogy of poverty is what everyone expects teaching to be. If you go and ask someone who hasn't been to school since they were a pupil there, ask them what they think teaching is, and they'll probably say, well, what a teacher does. They'll probably say, well, you mark books, you give detentions, you make sure the kids are attending, you plan lessons, you deliver knowledge, you do all that, and that is what a teacher does. But we all know we do a whole lot more. What I'd like to have a little think about perhaps with you now is what's the opposite of a pedagogy of poverty? And it's probably a pedagogy of richness, of a pedagogy of compassion, a pedagogy of passion about your subject, and so on. I remember, sitting with Callum and trying to get him through that Seamus Heaney poetry, Storm on the Island. And I remember just trying to paint the pictures for him. And getting him to get the notes down so that he could go in and nail it. And I remember him saying to me, we've all had this, I remember him saying to me, like, "Sir, I'm not going to need this, am I?" And do you know what? He probably isn't, but I still wanted him to negotiate it. I still wanted him to have it, to get that from me. I don't know, maybe it's a middle ground we've got to find. Maybe that's where the pedagogy of richness might lie. The pedagogy of botheredness is where there's you at the front, isn't there? Particularly in secondary, we're at the front. We may take some risks and meander to the side and maybe even go to the back and see what it's like. But generally, we're at the front, and the expectation from everyone is to deliver and to show that you've delivered. And that's what teaching is. But again, I'll say it, we know it's a whole lot more. We're there at the front in the classroom in front of us. Do you remember all that stuff about seating plans? You could have a U-shaped, you could have an umbrella shaped, you could have, I don't know, bottlenose dolphin shaped. You know, you got your kids in front of you, you're here. There's a middle ground there, physically, but also mentally, emotionally, it's there. How do we step into that middle ground, and how do we bring the kids in to that middle ground with us? And I think that's what botheredness might be. It's building the botheredness. What about that kid who says to you in primary, and I've had this kid going, Mr. Roberts, why do we do Romans? They're ages ago. And I'm looking at that kid and I'm thinking, you're spot on, son. They are. So how can I, as a teacher, make that kid bothered about Romans, which were ages ago? Languages teachers on here, flipping heck, languages teachers, my mates who teach languages, you've always got a queue of kids going, I don't need French, I am never going to France. So how do we build the botheredness about languages? My son's teacher does it. My son's teacher does it because he's buzzing with Spanish, and she's doing it because they're up and doing it all the time. They're in the middle ground. They're in that no man's land for some people. Some people don't want to go to the middle ground, but a lot of us do. We want to be there and stand, as well as standing in front of the children, which we have to do. We have to do that. We've got to deliver, haven't we? But there's other times where we've got to shift our stance, if you like, and we've got to stand next to them, stand with them inside the learning. And I don't mean that to sound jazz hands and grand and unachievable. It's just that. You're never going to get that from a worksheet. Although I know that worksheets sometimes save our bacon. We absolutely need some worksheets. Let me show you this because I've done some prep. I've drawn that. Can you see it? What do you do in your class to get kids' attention? You'll do loads of stuff. You'll have a nice room. They'll come in and you'll probably say, all right, how are you doing? Hey up. What are you doing? What you been up to? You'll have that chat with them. You might shake their hands. You might do a hacker. I don't know. And do you know what? I'm not bothered as long as the kids are coming in and feeling safe. How are you getting them interested? How are you getting the kids hooked in? Me, the work I do, I'm often looking at narratives and looking at stories. So if we're doing, I don't know, if we're doing something on World War II, for example, we might not go straight into war and battles. We might just be people working in a factory, and we'll set the class up as people working in a factory making stuff that then we have to change the things we're making because there's a crisis, a war brewing, and we're having to change the things we're making. What does that mean to us as perhaps, with a group of boys? What does that mean to us as a group of boys, as a group of young men? What does war brewing mean to us? How are factories adaptable and so on? Going off on a tangent there. How are you getting the kids engaged? Now, engagement's a thing. The word engagement, I'd be bob on. If someone came to observe me teach, particularly when I was younger, when someone came in rocked up to see me teach, I was buzzing if they said to me, the class were really engaged. You've worked very hard there, Hywel. I'd be absolutely made up with that. But just recently, I've started thinking, is engagement what we want? Is there not more? Is engagement, and I don't upset anyone with this word, with what I'm going to say. I absolutely don't. But is engagement just kids meeting expectations? Is it just kids showing manners? Is it just that? And is that the pedagogy of poverty in action? We're just doing the absolute what is expected of us and no more. What I want is the next level. I want to go under that line. Investment. We want the kids not just to be engaged, but we want them to invest in, don't we? We want them absolutely to get knee deep in it, rather than just dabbling around getting their toes wet. Does that make sense? I hope it does. That by the way, is from I've put a name there, Dorothy Hefker, an old-time drama teacher who taught me, who was absolutely amazing. She talked about obsession as well there at the end. How do you as a teacher, and this may be something you can go away and think about, how do you as teachers get kids to absolutely immerse themselves in complexity, into the difficult stuff? And I'm not thinking about how you dumb stuff down, because nobody wants to do that. But how do you get kids hooked in, bothered, and how do you get them protected? That's the word I'm looking for. How do you get them protected into the work that you're needing them to do? Because actually you're judged on how they're going to do. So you need them to do it. But meaning business doesn't mean being mean. So how do we show kids that actually learning can be all-encompassing, can be absorbing, can be worth investing in? How do we do that without threat? How do we do that and keep it safe? I haven't got all the answers, by the way. I don't know. I'm just asking these questions. And I think what we have there, I want you to take that idea of stance away. And I'd like you to think about how that stance, that shifting of stance from being, if you like, the teacher we've got to be a lot of the time, and the teacher we're expected to be, which is standing at the front, delivering all good stuff. But when do we shift? And I had a big learning point around that, because I was secondary me, but I now spend a lot of time in primary, in special, and in early years. And I've learned so much as a teacher in those places. Absolutely learned so much about how important it is, our presence, our botheredness in the classroom. I have no idea if I've overrun, and so I may stop. And I don't know if Graham's still listening, but I'm worried I've overrun. Graham, have I overrun?
No, do you know what, Hal? You could probably overrun for most of the day. It wouldn't matter. Nobody's going anywhere, are they?
No, well, they're not. I'm here all day now.
Me too. Me too. Cheers, Hal.
Thanks so much for having me. And hey, what you've done today is just so brilliant, and I feel really privileged to be part of it. So thanks everybody, and I hope some of that was useful.
It always is. Do you know what? It's just a privilege to have so many people here, to be honest, Hal. It's just fantastic. I'm loving it. I'm really, really, really enjoying myself too. So that's always good. We were lucky to have you on the island a few years back, weren't we?
Yeah, I want to come back, mate.
We want you back as well. We keep talking about it. We need to get you back.
Yeah, I'd love to come back soon. Yeah, thank you, mate.
Thanks ever so much. There is that's Ed. That's Hal from the Jolly Tap.